At some point, writing stopped being private. Not completely, but enough that it started to feel visible. You write something, and a part of you is already aware of how it sounds. Whether it's clear, whether it makes sense, whether it's something you'd be okay with someone else reading, even if you never actually show it to anyone. Th- that awareness changes things. It makes you edit as you go, choose certain words over others, skip over thoughts that feel too unclear, too uncomfortable, or too difficult to explain. And slowly, without meaning to, your journal becomes a place where you perform a version of yourself, a slightly more organized version, a slightly more understandable version. Not false, but not entirely unfiltered either. So I wanted to ask you something. When was the last time you wrote something that didn't need to make sense to anyone else? Not something polished, not something you could explain if someone asked, just something that was yours in the exact form it showed up inside you. Because that kind of writing has become rare, not just online, but even in private. We've gotten used to shaping our thoughts as we think them, making them presentable even when no one is watching. And over time, that creates a kind of distance between what you actually feel and what you allow yourself to put into words. This is where something very simple can change the entire experience of journaling: writing without performing. Not for an audience, not for clarity, not even for your future self to read back and understand perfectly. Just writing because something is there. For the past few months, imagine doing that. Showing up to a page every day without needing it to be meaningful in a visible way. Some days the writing would feel real, other days it might feel scattered, incomplete, even a little pointless. But you would keep going. Not because each entry is valuable on its own, but because the act of not performing starts to do something to you. It lowers the pressure. You stop asking, is this good enough? Or does this make sense? And instead, you just let the thought land exactly as it is. There's a kind of honesty that only shows up in that space, not the kind you try to reach, the kind that appears when you stop adjusting yourself. And it doesn't look impressive. It's often messy, contradictory, sometimes even confusing. But it's closer to how your mind actually works. Over time, that becomes familiar, comfortable even. You stop needing your thoughts to sound a certain way. You stop correcting yourself mid sentence, and the page becomes quieter, calmer. Not because there's less to say, but because there's less interference between you and what you're trying to write. If you've been journaling for a while, you might notice this without realizing it. Some entries feel more put together, others feel more like fragments. And usually, the ones that stay with you aren't the polished ones, they're the ones where you weren't trying to be understood. So maybe the question isn't, am I journaling consistently? Maybe it's this: am I allowing myself to write without shaping it for someone else? Even if that someone else is just an imagined reader in your mind. You don't have to change everything at once. You don't have to suddenly write in a completely different way. Just notice it. The next time you sit down with a page, pay attention to where you hesitate, where you rephrase, where you soften something before writing it down. And for that moment, don't adjust it. Let it stay the way it arrived. Close the page when you're done and leave it there without needing it to represent you. Because over time, writing without performing does something that's hard to notice immediately. It brings you closer to your own voice. Not the version that sounds right, not the version that feels complete, just the one that's actually yours. And staying with that quietly over months is where the real shift happens.